What's going on, everybody? It's Matt, aka the Lumberjack Landlord. I don't normally do this, but I'm reading this article and my blood is absolutely boiling. And so this is probably the horrible, most worst time for me to actually do a video like this and share this with you guys because I'm on tilt. I'm sitting here reading this article. It's actually in the New York Post. I'm a little bit beside myself that this article was even written and that I missed it yesterday, but I'm kind of catching up on my reading. And I want to read this article to you because I think it's extremely telling of exactly what we're looking at for the economic restructuring or crash or correction, depending on what you want to call it. So if you guys missed this article, I want to read it to you and actually give you my real-time reaction. I got only a couple paragraphs in and I'm just like, I cannot believe this is being said. And yeah, I get it. I'm looking a little bit lumberjacky because it's late at night. I just finished, took a shower. Not that you really need to know all that, but anyway, I digress. So it says, and the name of this article is actually, again, in the New York Post. It says, here's how many Americans think the U.S. housing market is heading for a crash. It says a significant portion of Americans fear the once booming housing market is headed for a significant crash. Where have we heard this before? According to the survey, 41% of Americans expect the housing market to crash within the next 12 months. Crash in the next 12 months, 41%. Oh my word. That's where the blood started boiling. Within the next 12 months, but by comparison, just 25% of respondents said they expect the sector to avoid a crash. Now, avoid a crash, correction, I think those are kind of all in the same boat, while 34% said they weren't sure. I like a third of America. So far, so good. Of those who expect a crash, a whopping 74% believe it will be as bad or worse than the housing market implosion in 2008 during the Great Recession. We don't have that many moron badges to hand out. We just don't. Guys, at the end of the day, what math are you looking at? What math are you looking at? Do you even know the numbers from the correction in 08? Do you even know the numbers from the crash in 08? Do you know any of the numbers? Do you know that the worst single year was 8.9% down? That was the worst single year. In 5 years, the market went down, and it went down about 28, 29%. That would be considered a crash. It didn't happen in 1 year. Learn your history before you have an opinion. Be informed for a change. Dear God. Some 33% of the respondents said inflation was the most significant reason for a predicted crash, while 24% pointed to the higher interest rates and 16% called out a lack of affordable housing. Again, people still not understanding how the housing market works. Builders don't keep on building, creating supply when they can't sell the supply that they're creating. The Fed doesn't keep on raising rates. They're admittedly trying to destroy demand. That's what they're doing. But they're going to pivot. No, you don't understand. They're going to pivot. I don't think you understand. They're going to pivot. No, they're not going to pivot. They're going to keep on going. They're going to keep on raising rates. They need to bring average inflation to 2%. Not a target 2%, but average. It's a little opaque because guess what? They're not telling you exactly when that's going to happen. But again, let's continue the article. Conditions within the housing sector have deteriorated this year as a surging mortgage rates crush buyer demand and force sellers to lower their listing prices. If only you guys had heard that from somebody 6 months ago. Just saying. I'll continue. Mortgage rates have declined in recent weeks, but we are still hovering at an average of 6.49%, more than twice as high as they were in January, but actually closer to the historical average of a mortgage rate. But I guess we don't do good research anymore. So while it is twice, confirmed, agreed, it's in the average. It's in the average. Despite mounting fears among consumers, the housing market is more stable than it was ahead of the Great Recession. No kidding. According to LendingTree's senior economist, Jacob Channel. I generally agree with him. The biggest issue between then and now is that then we had a supply of over 3 million homes. Now we have a supply of a little over 1 million homes. So there's 2 million fewer homes available for sale. Oh yeah, P.S. by the way, an inconvenient truth. Yeah, I'm stealing that. An inconvenient truth might also be that 93% of mortgage holders are below 5.25%. So let me think here. You're going to get somebody to give up their mortgage on the house at 3% or 3.5% or 4% and buy a new home still with prices elevated at 6.5%. Oh, what do you, transactions are down? I never would have guessed it. Actually, I did guess it 6 months ago, but it was just based on math, more inconvenient truth. So today's homeowners are in much better position, well done, economist, to continue to make their payments even if we enter a recession. Channel said, it's important to note that the reason why the market crashed in 2008 was because there was diminished demand for home buying and massive influx of homes hitting the market due to high foreclosure rates. I'm a 9th grade dropout and I still understand supply and demand. I don't know why such a large part of America doesn't understand a simple concept like this. But anyway, I digress. Right now, we do have reduced demand for homes, but no massive influx of supply. See 93% of people with a 5.25% mortgage or less. Why would they need to sell? They will wait. They can do an addition onto their house and do some sort of a loan on that. Or even, I don't know, maybe they've even saved up the money to do that. So right now we do have that reduced demand for new homes, but no massive influx of supply, which puts us in a much better position. Again, talking about why it won't crash, something that most of the crash idiots on YouTube don't understand, that they just don't get supply and demand. It's a very simple concept. They were talking about all these foreclosures are coming. Foreclosure starts are up. Actual foreclosures, we still haven't hit pre-pandemic levels. Nope, still haven't hit it yet. Waiting, still waiting. Still, channel noted that home price declines of 5 to 10% seem reasonable to me in many markets across the country. Pretty sure I've been calling that this year as well. I think this year we were up 16.6%. I think we're going to be single digits this year when it comes to actual where we end up. But I think next year we are down. I've said it a number of times. I think a correction is coming. It's 10 to 20%. 20% is still a stretch. There are some markets that will hit 20%. There are some markets that might even hit 30%. CI buyer markets, like I've been talking about for 6 months. So as we continue to dissect this, there's a great graph in there. I don't have it to show you guys, but again, New York Post article from yesterday. While I do think the housing market will continue to slow over the next 12 months, and some people may end up underwater on their mortgages as a result, a major crash doesn't appear likely. At least not at the moment, channel said. Some experts say the decline in home prices will be more extreme, potentially dipping 20% from recent peaks in the months and years to come. Keep that in mind. Months and years to come. Everybody is in this vending machine life concept. Put money in, get Coke out. Put money in, get sweets out. My preference, probably a Twinkie. But this is what I'm talking about. It doesn't happen fast. It's slow. It's long. You'll hear the terms coming from people like me, people from like Mike Zuber from One Rental at a Time and Dion Talk Financial Freedom and Millennial Mike. You'll hear us say things like pricing is sticky on the way down. Everything always goes up faster than it comes back down in price. I'm still saying there's going to be a correction. But for this much of society to believe that there's a worse than 2008 correction coming and that it's going to happen next year, epic fail. They don't understand simple economics. And it's not like I could generally disagree based on all my education. It's only life experience. So I think it's absolutely crazy that these people are not founding any of their opinions on facts. They probably watch too much YouTube, maybe even me included, but they wouldn't have gotten that opinion from me. Millennials were the most likely to predict a looming housing market crash. What a shock. They have an opinion on something they've never experienced as an adult. Let's look at this again. In 2007 is really when the housing correction started. Now it's 2022. That means 15 years. That's when the crash started. All the things that were taking place that led up to the crash were in 4, 5, and 6. Largely speaking, that's when the underwriting for mortgages was absolutely abhorrent, and they are partially responsible for why we ended up in the mess that we did. The fact still remains is that it's been 15 years. So let's just say they were 22 years old and then they got out of college. And now they're 15 years older. That's when they were in college when the crash started, but they weren't shopping for homes. What was a typical home buyer then? Mid-20s, late 20s? That means that they would need to be in their mid-40s, which doesn't make them millennials. So this is what I'm saying. 15 years back, meaning if you are saying, then this is what this article is saying, is that 44% of these respondents are the millennials. 44%. This is why they don't know what they're talking about. They've never actually been through an economy that's even the slightest bit tough. It's not even tough at all. They've not lived through it. Largely speaking, after we went through all the craziness of 8, 9, and 10, we had 12 years of this, up and to the right, up and to the right. Little blips here and there, but mostly up and to the right. Now we're going to deal with the real recession. We are absolutely going to go into recession. That's absolutely my belief. It's just not going to be nearly as bad as people think, because other people, my age, 45 years and older, we've seen multiple recessions. And we know what it took to get into them. We saw what it was to get out of them. I get it. It's icky. Nobody likes feeling icky. No one likes a case of the ickies. I get it. But let's look at it factually. The numbers don't support the opinion at all. They don't support it. Economic fears aren't limited to homeowners. 61% share of renters said their monthly rent payments were more expensive than they have been or should be based on their experience. Their rents are higher than they should be based on their experience. They're a renter. Rent always goes up. Look at history, 114 years, up, 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 up. In the Great Recession, do you know what happened? People were losing their homes. They had to have a place to live. They still had a job. They had jobs that paid less. Do you know what they did? They weren't homeless. They rented a unit for less money than what their balloon payment mortgage was. That's what actually and factually happened. Some markets were down, but the country as a whole, rents up. And the quality of tenant that we could get outside of, if you dismiss the mortgage piece, the quality of tenant we could get was actually better. Rising shelter costs are a key driver for inflation, which moderated slightly in October, but is still running well above a Federal Reserve's acceptable range. An update on inflation for November is due next week. As the Post reported this week, U.S. listings of homes for sale were pulled off the market at a record clip in November. It's almost like I knew that was coming. I did. I told you that months ago. People are going to post their houses thinking it's back 6 months ago. They're not going to get the number that they want. Then they start looking and saying, oh dear, wouldn't it be great to just upgrade to this house? And they look at the numbers and they're like, my payment's going to be 100% more and we're adding 1 bedroom? No, it's not. We're staying put. We'll figure it out. We'll finish off the basement. That's why I personally think Lowe's, Home Depot, they're probably going to have some pretty good quarters to come. So lastly is experts at Redfin, here we go, attributed the trend to surprise among homeowners who were receiving less interest and lower bids than they expected from cost-conscious buyers. Yeah, it's the chart that I always talk about. You guys, I've hit this chart so many times. That was one of my other charts, but I've hit this chart so many times. If you were doing this in 7 of 20, your rate was 307. In 1 of 21, your rate was 265. That was your 30-year mortgage rate. In 7 of 21, it was still 298. In 1 of 22, it was still 3.10. Then in July, yeah, it was 5.3. I get it. That's a lot. And this is what makes your payment go up. From 1,400 with all these crash guys, 720, all of 21, beginning part of 22, crash, crash, crash. Crash is coming. Don't buy a home. Yeah, this is what your locked-in payment would have been for 30 years. This is what your locked-in payment would have been for 30 years. Aren't you glad you watched so many crash videos? Didn't that work out well? And now we end up at 5.3, 2.476, excuse me, $2,476 is that monthly payment. Is that gone any higher? Yep. Well, now we're at 6.7. And yes, the median has started to come down. But guess what? Guys, that doesn't equal crash. It's going to be sticky on the way down. They're going to keep raising rates, keep destroying demand. There's still not this massive surge of inventory, and it ain't coming. It just isn't. So let me know what you guys think about in the comments below. I'm more than happy to debate the topic with you. But again, Lumberjack Landlord, we always try and create great content for you. Please make sure you hit that like button. Also subscribe. And we'll be doing an awesome live stream with Dion Talk Financial Freedom and Millennial Mike over on Dion Talk Financial Freedom on Friday, where I'm more than happy to take on any people that might disagree with my my thesis. Have a great night, everybody. Appreciate you very much. Take care.